everybody. Welcome to another chapter of the Book of Sean. It's good to see you. Thank you for tuning in. I'm excited about what we're going to do tonight. It's Friday, and we always have amazing shows on Friday. It's just me and you. We get to talk. There's a lot going on in the world, and you know I got a lot to say about it. We're going to talk about what's going on in Alabama. There's some crazy things going on in Alabama, people. There's some crazy things going on in public schools. People are doing strange things in public schools, things they should not be doing. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Donald Trump because there's always something Donald Trump is doing that he probably shouldn't be doing. And there's still a trial going on in Minneapolis that a lot of people aren't paying attention to. We're going to deal with it all. I'm going to do some Ask Dr. Sean later, but let's get started with some headlines right now. So I mentioned Donald Trump to all of you. And did you hear that Donald Trump is about to unveil his new social media app called Truth Social? He's beta testing it as we speak. So Donald Trump is trying to give the world an app called Truth Social. Here's a man who lied to an entire country for 4 years. And now he's decided that he wants to be the repository of truth and honesty on social media. That he wants to give us Truth Social. That's the name of his new app. And of course, this is a response to the fact that Donald Trump was banned from Twitter and Facebook, which are probably one of the only good things that Twitter and Facebook has ever done jointly for anybody, especially America, is ban Donald Trump from their platform. But Trump has promised that his new app will be the place for censor-free content. Nobody's going to be looking over your shoulder on Truth Social. Nobody's going to be banning you. You can say whatever the hell you want, 2, 3. You can just go on and just say, you can just go on. Can you imagine the kind of vulgarity and hatred and the kind of insensitivity and malice and racism and xenophobia and misogyny, homophobia, transphobia, black phobia, common sense phobia? Can you imagine the kind of stuff that's going to get said on this platform? I'm just saying, you can be as anti-Semitic as you want on Truth Social because there's no censoring. They're just going to let you say whatever you want. Can you imagine the level of hatred that's going to be in this thing? It is absolutely crazy. And listen. I'm not against this. 2, 3, this might shock you, okay? I am not against this app. I am not against this app. Here's what I mean by it. I'm not against the app because I think there ought to be a place for racists and bigots and xenophobes and sexists and I think there ought to be a place for all of them to get together and gather. And if they want to get together and talk to each other, go right on over to Truth Social and have your little bigot meeting together. I'm fine with it. You know what I'm saying? Because listen, let me be clear. I would never give this app 1 millisecond of my attention, but in America, you have the right to think what you want to think. You have the right to say what you want to say. And if you want to be a bigot and a racist, you got the right. Go on and do it. I'm not against Truth Social being the repository of all the craziness going on. And here's another reason why. You ready for this? Because I want all the bigots and I want all the misogynists and all the racists that are on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and TikTok now. I want all of them to get off those platforms and go on over to Truth Social and y'all be together. You know, go over there with your leader. Have a good time. Because I don't want to go through my feed, you know, my scroll through my feed, my thread rather, and see all the craziness. I don't want to see that. Y'all going over there. So I'm all for it. Y'all enjoy each other. But here's the real reason why I want to tell you about this. Y'all ready for this? Y'all know Donald Trump is going to find a way to get this whole thing banned. Watch. You know he's going to mess up and find a way to get the whole application knocked off the airwaves. Because you do remember that the FCC owns all the airwaves, all the digital airwaves, it's federally owned. So we'll see what happens. Let's move on, 2, 3. How y'all doing tonight? Check this story out because I mentioned this in my opening that there's still a trial going on in Minneapolis. A lot of people have forgotten about the that the trial for the murder of George Floyd is still going on. Officers are currently being tried for to see whether or not they should be convicted for what happened with him. And I know a lot of people moved on after Derek Chauvin was convicted, and people, sort of went on to the next thing. But that trial is still going on. And that man that you see right there, well, that's Derek Chauvin, of course. But the guy that's on trial right now, Tao Theo, that guy right there, he's on trial right now because he's being brought up on federal charges because he did not help George Floyd when Derek Chauvin was crushing his neck with his knee. And Tao Theo, I think I'm saying his name right, this officer is currently being held accountable for what he didn't do. Because while Derek Chauvin was killing George Floyd, this officer decided that he wanted to, just stand there and control the crowd. He thought it was better to control the crowd than it was to step in and remove Derek Chauvin's knee from the neck of George Floyd. And one of the things that I've never understood about this case and about all of these officers, and you just saw all of their photos, I've never understood about all of these officers who were a part of this. I've never understood why none of them thought that their humanity should require of them the simple act of requiring someone to stop killing someone in front of them. I've just never understood why their humanity didn't wake up. Like what happened to them that morning or 10 years ago or 15 minutes before it happened or 20 years before they got there that allowed their humanity to be so impinged upon, so buried, so sublimated that they could just stand there and watch a man die and be more concerned about the crowd than they were about the man who couldn't breathe under the neck of one of their fellow officers. This officer is rightly being held accountable. And I know a lot of us are not, following this trial because we're on to other things, Russia, Ukraine, there's always something. But accountability still needs to happen even if most people aren't paying attention. That's what makes accountability. Accountability isn't about the trial getting attention it is about justice taking its just desserts. It's about justice establishing itself whether most people happen to be paying attention or not. Dr. King said this, and somebody was in the studio earlier quoting Dr. King, and he said something interesting. Dr. King said, in some situations, cowardice asks the question, is it safe? Politics asks the question, is it expedient? But truth must ask the question, is it right? And that's what this officer failed to do. He failed to ask himself a fundamental question. Is it right? Is it right to stand here and watch a man die under the knee of another man for absolutely no reason? And he was unwilling to ask himself that fundamental question. Here's my word to you, because you guys know I don't just like to talk about what's going on in the headlines without bringing it back to you. See, here's my word to you. Don't let people in your life suffer and you say nothing about it. Don't know that there's a woman in your life, in your circle, in your friendship, or a man in your life or in your circle, in your friendships, who's going through something, who's suffering because of somebody else, and you just stand back and say it's none of my business. It is your business. Don't let people suffer in your family who are going through things, abuse, whatever it is, and you say nothing. Because when you say nothing, you are as guilty as these officers were who were complicit in the death of George Floyd. And you may say, Dr. Sean, you're being verbose and extra. Well, that's my job, to be verbose and extra, by the way. But more than that, I'm being right. Because right is right and wrong is wrong. We can talk about this officer all we want. But I'm telling you right now, the people in your life need you to step up and do something about what's going on to them. Because if you don't do it for them, then who will do it for you when it's your turn? And you need somebody to help you get somebody else's knee off your neck. Let's move on to 3. So we've all heard about Joe Biden going to choose a black woman to be on the Supreme Court, and I've covered this story before, and then, everybody's talking about this. One of the things I've been noticing lately is how much black folks, white folks, all kinds of folks are advocating for their particular nominee, the nominees that they like, right? So all the potential nominees, Ketanji Brown Jackson, Michelle Childs, Leodora Kruger, all of these wonderful, wonderful, wonderful nominees. All of them qualified, all of them brilliant, all of them have top flight, sublime judicial minds. But here's the other thing that they all are. They are all black women. Every one of the names that I just gave you, every one of the photos that you just saw, and any woman that Joe Biden is going to nominate is a black woman. And that means something. Here's what it means. It means that every one of these nominees will represent a black woman and the black community and black folks generally when she sits on the court. Here's what it also means. It means that no matter who he picks to be his nominee, black women win. Black community wins. And all people of goodwill who want to see other people of goodwill win, they win too. Here's the point I'm trying to make. I've been hearing a lot of people advocating for their little candidate, the one that they want, the nominee that they want, taking, not indirect shots at the other one. She went to Harvard. My candidate is a regular person, or that candidate didn't go to Harvard. Listen, the one thing we cannot do is allow ourselves to be pit against each other. Black women cannot be pit against each other in the attempt to secure this seat on the Supreme Court. And we all know there's a long and horrible history of how black folks have fought against each other just to get a seat at the master's table, to eat the crumbs that we could get from the master's table. We can't let that happen this time. We cannot allow this opportunity to turn black women against each other and to make enemies of themselves. And I know we live in a time and in a space where social media and reality TV and love and hip hop has made it normal and normalized the image of seeing black women literally fight each other. One of my biggest problems with all of the genres that I just mentioned is that it normalized the notion, all this reality TV, it normalized the notion that black women are adversaries of black women, fighting against each other, literally. And let's go there, since you watch it and we just talking, right? We tune in to watch it. We tune in to watch black women cuss each other out. Huh? We tune in to watch black women, do all kinds of crazy things against each other. Slap each other, throw drinks on each other, all kinds of stuff. It's become normal. We can't let that happen, beloved. We cannot let it be the case that black women are fighting each other or being pit against each other to get this seat on the Supreme Court, because when black women fight each other, the entire village suffers and nobody wins. Nobody wins when a black woman fights another black woman, especially the black woman who thinks she wins the fight. Nobody wins. No matter which one of these candidates happen to be chosen, all the nominees should be celebrated. All of them should be venerated. Whether they went to Harvard or they went to a community college, they from South Carolina, they from California, wherever they from, all of the multiplicity of their backgrounds, all that they bring to the table, education, family, personal life, all of it, it all should be celebrated. Every last one of them are accomplished, brilliant women who deserve every opportunity that life is about to accord and afford them. We have to get over the notion that in order for me to win, you have to lose. Did you hear what I just said? Because that was good. We gotta get rid of the notion that in order for me to win, you have to lose. You don't have to lose in order for me to win, and vice versa. We both can win. There's enough joy and love and peace and opportunity in the world and in the universe for all of us to have a piece of it. Just because one black woman makes it to the Supreme Court, guess what? Another black woman can do something else. Another black man could do this while another. We don't have to be jealous of each other. We don't have to have those kind of notions and understandings that if you make it, it means I don't. In fact, I would say to you this. When we celebrate each other, we confound our enemies. When we celebrate each other, we make people who don't like us misunderstand, scared, and run away because they don't understand the sound of unrequited joy. When we celebrate each other, we create the spiritual space that we need for ourselves to be blessed. And if you want to be blessed, the best way to be blessed is to bless somebody else. And if you can't bless them, celebrate the fact that they are being blessed and that they're having a good life and things are going well for them. That's how you create the space that you need for the life that you want to live. And how about this? We can't put black women against black women because the world needs black women. And if nobody else needs black women, then certainly black women need each other. And so my sisters, let's all root for each other. My brothers and my sisters, let's all cheer for each other. Because when you win, I win too. All right, let's take a break. I got some more headlines for you. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back, everybody. So let's do some more headlines, people. Play the bumper. I cracked myself up. So, 2-3, this story is for you, all right? This story is for you because part of my assignment in life is to get you saved. I'm trying to get you into heaven. This is what I want to do. You guys know, you guys don't get to see 2-3, but he's right over there. And part of my assignment in life is to get him into the kingdom. It's a lot of work. So this story is for 2-3. Check this out. You guys heard about the Catholic priest in Arizona? All right. Did you hear that there's a Catholic priest in Arizona who was deemed to be performing baptisms incorrectly throughout his entire career? So the Archdiocese of Phoenix announced on their website that they deemed that Father Andreas Arango, I think I'm saying his name right, used the wrong wording to perform baptisms, and that because of the wrong wording, that all of the baptisms that he performed were now invalid. And we're talking about 1,000 baptisms. So the Archdiocese, check this out, the Archdiocese of Phoenix invalidated 1,000 baptisms because this priest used one wrong word. So here's the story. So according to the Archdiocese, the Reverend used the phrase, "we baptize you in the name of the Father," and when he should have used the phrase, "I baptize you in the name of whoever. And according to the Archdiocese, the problem with it is, just stay with me because this is about to get funny. The problem with it is that it's not the church that baptizes you, according to the Archdiocese, it's Jesus who baptizes you. So he should have said, "I baptize you," because he's baptizing on behalf of Jesus and not on behalf of the church. Okay, I have some expertise in this, all right? I have some literal expertise in this. And I've done a bunch of baptisms, and I just need you people to understand one thing. When I did those baptisms, Jesus was nowhere to be found. He was not present. He wasn't in the water. In fact, if you read the New Testament, he told us to go and baptize people. So I don't know what the Archdiocese is talking about. Jesus is the one that baptizes the people, because I don't even understand how that makes any sense. All right, but I'm not knocking it. If that's what they believe, that's what they believe. But the reason I thought this story was so interesting is because this is another example of religion finding any reason to be silly and petty as humanly possible. Y'all gonna invalidate 1,000 baptisms for one word? Because he said "we" instead of "I"? I mean, come on, man. In a day and age when people are trying to get their souls together, get their lives together, deal with anxiety and fear, and y'all have decided to invalidate 1,000 baptisms, okay? It's another example of how ridiculous religion can be. To invalidate somebody's baptism over one word is just, you're shooting yourself in the foot. First of all, the Catholic Church is losing people. And now y'all invalidating people's baptisms? This is not a good business plan. Not to mention the fact, I thought it was the Spirit that baptizes you. How you gonna invalidate something and it's the Spirit doing the work? Okay. Only religion could miss the point by focusing on something that really don't matter. Only religion. So, I thought this story was interesting because it is often the case that people will love to distract you with things that don't matter to excuse the thing that they don't really have the ability to control or understand. Watch people who want to make the subject something the subject isn't supposed to be. That's what the Catholic Church is trying to do right now. Well, the priest ultimately resigned, because I think I would resign too if you invalidated all my damn baptisms. I got in the water all that many times, and you're going to invalidate my word. So he resigned. And now the people who were baptized, I don't know, I guess they got to get rebaptized. You know what I'm saying? But but here's the real problem. A lot of the people whose baptisms were invalidated will probably leave the church, probably walk away and decide that they don't want to be bothered, and perhaps rightfully so. But you guys remember one thing. At its best, religion is not about rules. It's about relationship. And any religion that makes it okay for you to be silly is a religion you should probably not have much to do with. Let's move on to 3. You guys hear about what's going on in West Virginia? So I found this story, speaking of religion, right? Here's another one. So there's a West Virginia high school student named Max Niebert. And Max Niebert and his classmates were in class on a particular day. We won't mention the particular day. It was on a class particular day. And one of his teachers directed him, that's Max right there, and his classmates to go to the auditorium. When they went to the auditorium, they were in the middle of a Christian revival, 2-3. That's where you need to go. To a Christian revival, son. Get your soul together. And so Max and his classmates, now mind you, this is a public school. This is not some evangelical school, where they do Bible study. He was in a public West Virginia school, and they were having a Christian revival in the middle of the day, sending kids to the Christian revival. And they had a preacher, choir praise team. And Max said that they were instructed to lift their hands and pray and accept Jesus. In a public high school, people, I'm just drink this for a second. This is what we're going to. Now we can't teach black history, and we can't teach critical race theory, and we can't teach that Thomas Jefferson was a pedophile, and we can't teach that George Washington owned slaves, and we can't teach that, the Trail of Tears. We can't teach that. But we can have Christian revivals in school. We can bring people to Jesus. Really? Is that what we're doing now? That's what they're doing in West Virginia. But to his credit, Max, whose photo that you just saw, Max and 100 students the next day staged a walkout during homeroom, and they refused to capitulate to the evangelical tendencies of the administration of the school that they were a part of. And a bunch of kids protested this. You know what? I went to 2-3. I went to Forest Hills High School in Queens, New York. So Forest Hills High School was a school that I went to. And if they had a Christian revival at Forest Hills High School, the preacher would have been sad that he showed up. And it's not because anybody would have beat him up, because not that we want that kind of part. But when I was in high school, now I can't tell you about what the white kids did at Forest Hills High School, because I didn't have a whole lot of white friends. But the black kids at Forest Hills High School, we was woke. You hear me? We was extra woke. If they would have tried to have a Christian revival in our high school, all of the black kids would have showed up just to watch the fight, the intellectual fight. Because we had 5%ers, black Hebrew Israelites, Nation of Islam, woke Christians. I mean, listen. It would have been on and popping as soon as the little evangelical preacher tried to give us white Jesus. That assembly would have been over. Hands would have gone up. Where was he from? Where was he born? I'm telling you, my high school was woke. Anyway, it's kind of sad that folks are really willing to throw away the notion of separation between church and state. And church and state exist not to protect religion from the state. The separation of church and state exists to protect the state from religion. You do understand that, right? You do understand that's why there's a separation between church and state. Not to protect religion, but to protect the state. I don't know what's going to happen in West Virginia, but here's what I do know. To every preacher considering going into high schools and preaching your little sermon, here's what you should remember, dear preacher. If they wanted to hear your sermon, they would go to your church. Let's move on. So the University of Alabama, the trustees at the University of Alabama recently unanimously voted to strip the name of a Ku Klux Klan leader and governor, Bibb Graves, of one of its campus buildings. Now, I suppose the measure is a measure. That's him right there. That's the Klan leader, Bibb Graves. They stripped his name off the building, and apparently this is a move of progress since check this out, check this out. This move to strip the name came after another decision to put his name on the building next to the name of the first black woman or black student who was a woman to graduate from the University of Alabama. So these numbnuts thought the way to handle this is to put the Klansman's name on the building and the first black student's name on the building. Oh my God. Come on. First of all, why would anybody want the name of a Klansman and an unrepentant racist? Why would you want that name on your building? If I was a white person, I would not want that name on the building because it misrepresents me. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't want that person's name on the building because they misrepresent what I'm about. Unless they don't misrepresent what you're about, and then you don't care. I still don't understand why people don't have some sensitivity as to why black and brown people have a problem with these buildings being named these things and have a problem with these statues. I still don't understand why y'all don't understand that this is a problem. Now, it ain't the biggest problem in the world. You know, when Bill Maher talks about this with his silly self, he likes to act like, you know, those of us who take these issues up think it's the most, it ain't the biggest issue in the world, but it's an issue. It's an issue, and I'll tell you why it's an issue. And for those of you who don't understand why it's an issue, I'm going to help you because I help people on this show. So I'm about to help you, okay? Let's go through this thought experiment. Hypothetically speaking, let's say my cousin hypothetically came into your town. Mr. and Mrs. I don't understand why black people don't like names on the building. Let's say my cousin, I'm going over, y'all chill out with the time. Let's say my cousin came to the building, and came to your town rather, and my cousin while in the town raped and robbed and murdered and killed your mama. Let's say my cousin, just came in town and raped and robbed and pillaged and killed your mama. And then 10 years after my cousin did all of that to your mama, went to jail and died, I built a building in the middle of your town, and then I named it after my cousin who raped and robbed and pillaged and murdered your mama. How would you feel about that? Would you have any problem with that? Would there be any protest that would come from you and your family? And what if I said to you, I'm just honoring my heritage? That is my cousin after all. I'm just honoring my family. What would you say to that if I named a building after my cousin who raped and pillaged and robbed and murdered your mama? Yeah, you'd have a problem with that. If you don't have a problem with that, something would be wrong with you. Well, guess what? The same principle applies. That's why we don't like buildings named after Klansmen, because they in fact did rape and rob and pillage and murder our great-great-grandmothers and fathers. How about that? Let's take a break. Welcome back, everybody. So 2-3 wanted all of you to know that he is actually baptized and he's taking First Communion. Now, I'm not sure if his baptisms have been invalidated by what the priest said or by what he has done subsequently after being baptized. All right, let's do some best things I've seen all week. You think your salvation is secure, son? I don't know, because I know it's you. I don't. Anyway, so these are some of the best things that I've seen all week, all right? And I love bringing these things to you because some of these, maybe you've seen, some of these, maybe you haven't. But this one is a big deal, okay? Sometimes I play around and I joke and I'm kind of silly, but this is a big deal. Doctors believe that the first woman and the third person in human history has been cured of HIV. If I had a crowd, we'd be clapping and doing a standing ovation. I mean, that is a big deal. Apparently, she received a stem cell transplant from a donor who was naturally resistant to the virus, and the transplant put the HIV virus in her body into remission. And so she's essentially, for all intents and effective purposes, cured of it. This is a big deal, okay? I'm just saying. And a lot of people, maybe a lot of folks, their lives have not been touched by HIV or AIDS, or maybe these days you may not know a lot of people anymore. But there was a time in this country when everybody knew somebody who was dealing with somebody who was loving somebody dealing with this. I mean, there was a time in this country when HIV/AIDS was, it not only tore families apart, it turned people against each other. HIV/AIDS in the late 80s, in the mid-late 80s, early 90s, I mean, it was the thing you just didn't want to get because it was a death sentence. You knew you was going to die. And some of us can remember when we heard that Magic Johnson got it. We just thought, Magic's out of here. But this just goes to show you, and it just really goes to show you what can happen when people and science and medicine and progress continues to advance itself and go forward. And I know something about this. A lot of you know that I was adopted, but what you may not know was that the woman who adopted me years later also adopted a baby who had HIV. He later developed full-blown AIDS, and he died. And so this disease was in my family, in my house, down the hall. And my mother's sister begged her not to bring this child into our home because my mother's sister was afraid of it like everybody was. But my mama, being who my mama was, you talk about somebody who was a believer. My mama didn't care nothing about no HIV or none of that. She saw a baby who was suffering. She saw a baby who was slated to die, who didn't have a home, and she was determined to give it to him. And my mama in the 80s, when nobody wanted to touch anybody with HIV or AIDS, my mama brought this baby home. And she taught us what love was because she made us love somebody that nobody else wanted to care about. And now to hear that people are being cured of a disease that my little brother died from, that's an incredible night tonight. This is a big deal, people. Now, doctors want to warn everybody that they can't do this, en masse, that the treatment that they gave these three people that can't be given to everybody right now, but they're working to make sure that more people can be cured of this dreaded disease. And I'm excited about that. Just goes to show you what can happen when hard work and effort and people still believe that possibility and progress are possible. Also goes to show you what can happen when scientists and doctors stay away from politics and religion and they do their work and they keep their head down, making progress so that people who deserve to live can live and not die. So to everybody struggling with HIV and AIDS, I got some good news for you tonight. You hang in there, because apparently a lot of help is on the way. All right, here's my second best thing that I saw this week. So this is definitely one of the great stories, all right? So apparently there's a young man named Jordan Reed, and Jordan Reed is 9 years old. He's in the 4th grade, and recently he learned that his school district was getting rid of chocolate milk. Well, Jordan didn't like it. So Jordan and his classmates at Sierra Vista School in California staged a protest against the school district removing chocolate milk. And it turns out a bunch of kids didn't like it either. So Jordan and 26 of his classmates joined together in an effort to bring back chocolate milk. And guess what happened? The school district caved and chocolate milk is coming back because you can't take a kid's chocolate milk and get away with it, damn it. So shout out to Jordan and his classmates for fighting a good fight. You know what, it's so interesting because I love this. I love this story because it reminds me emphatically that if you want to change something about your life, you have the ability to do it. And you don't need anybody's permission or wherewithal to grant you access. No. If you want to change something about your life, then change it. If you don't like something going on in the world, then change what you don't like in the world. And if Jordan Reed, a 4th grader who's 9 years old, can get chocolate milk brought back into the schools, you can change whatever it is you're trying to change. If a 9-year-old can do it, you can do it. I'm just trying to tell you, people, it can be done. Because people are changing their lives every single day. Every single day, people are changing their lives. They're losing weight. They're getting rid of relationships. They're building businesses, writing books, going places they've never been before. People are just doing it. So find the thing about your life and your world that you don't like and change it. And it doesn't have to be big. It just has to be important to you. All right, here's the last thing I want to do before I take this break. My producers wanted me to take a look at this. They wanted this to be a part of the best things that I've seen all week. And I haven't seen this yet. So let's see if this is actually a best thing. Play that video.
Oh. Ah! Let's go.
Wow. So they just told me in my ear that he's self-taught. That's what makes it the best thing. Nobody taught him how to do that. That he taught himself how to flip around like that. First of all, truthfully, if I tried that, I would blow out a hip, a knee. My back would be on the other side of the gym. So I think, yes, that qualifies as one of the best things I've seen all week. Because if that guy taught himself how to do that, geesh, he's a genius and don't even know it. I'm just trying to say, people, there's some things that you probably can do that you don't know that you can do them yet because you ain't tried it yet. How about over this break, you reconsider all the things that you think are impossible? Because if that guy can flip around and we can cure AIDS and Jordan can get chocolate milk, I'm excited about your future. Welcome back, everybody. So let's do some Ask Dr. Sean, people. You guys always send me amazing questions and videos. Thank you for that. And keep sending them because, you know, the more you send, the more I can answer. And the questions that you send are usually questions that other people want to have an answer to as well. So, you know, there are no bad questions. Well, that's not true. There can be bad questions. But you guys haven't sent one. And this one, I'm sure, isn't a bad question either. Let's look at the video.
Hi, Dr. Sean. My name is Dana. And my friend just started talking to a white guy, which nothing is wrong with interracial dating. However, he uses the N-word around us. What's the best way I should approach her about this issue?
What? What's the best way you should approach? First, this question is exhausting. You know, I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted before I even start answering this question. Because, the answers are just so obvious to me. And point number one, why does this white guy feel so comfortable using the N-word around black people? Who set up this dynamic? You know what I'm saying? And why hasn't your friend checked him? Why doesn't your friend have enough self-respect and pride and courtesy to say to him, listen, if y'all want to use the N-word together, if you want him to call you an N-word at home, oh my God. You know, while y'all running around the house butt naked, and if that's how y'all get down, he gets excited calling you the N-word. If that's what y'all want to do in your house, do it in your house. But if your friend doesn't have the wherewithal or the common sense to say to him, you cannot use this word around my friends in public. It's disrespectful. It's out of order. It's just a lack of courtesy, civilization, sophistication, all of it. Character. And you ask me what you should do? Here's what you should do. Let me help you, okay? Because the question exhausts me. Here's what you should do. You need to check your friend and help her find her humanity and her blackness. And the next time he uses that word in your presence, you need to dismiss yourself from his presence after you let him know that his disrespect of you is why you're leaving. That's what you do. Sometimes you gotta just call a thing and let people know. That's what my Angela used to do. When you would go to her house and you would say something in her house that she didn't like, you know what she would do? She'd put you out of her house. That's the same thing I do, by the way. You come to my house, you start talking crazy about somebody, you using anti-Semitic language, or you being homophobic or transphobic or whatever. Even quite frankly, if you even just talking crazy about white folks for no reason, I'll put you out of my house. You got to go. What's wrong with you? Why are you rooted in that kind of hatred and bigotry? That can't be in my house. I don't let that spirit in my house. And so I'm saying to you, what you need to do is help your friend find her blackness, her self-respect, and her dignity, and to say, if you're not going to say nothing, then I'm going to say something, because this is what you should be doing. What I'm really saying, quite frankly, is don't tolerate it. Okay? Don't tolerate it. And if he won't stop and she won't stop him, then don't give them the benefit of your presence. And when asked why you're not around, remind them of the reason why. It's just that simple. All right, let me do this question. Someone DM me this. I am a traditional woman. And I don't believe with living with a man until marriage. But inflation is at an all-time high. I could save more money if I moved in with my boyfriend. Is this the wrong reason to move in with your significant other? Simple answer, yes it is. It is the worst reason you could possibly find on the planet Earth to move in with somebody. Okay? And I thought you didn't believe with living with somebody. I thought you was a traditional woman. I thought you was, it sound like you a believer. You don't believe in that. All right, if you a believer, then inflation made you compromise your beliefs? You must not believe it as much as you say you do. But moving in with somebody because inflation and saving money is a terrible reason to live with somebody under romantic scenarios. Now, if you just friends and you guys want to save money and you live together as friends, that's fine. That's totally fine. But if you're in a romantic situation and you living with somebody and you only did it because you wanted to save money, at some point the money's not going to be worth it. You need more than just money to be the thing that keeps you sane, keeps you civilized and civil in the presence of somebody who's getting on your nerves. It's an absolute horrible reason to move in with somebody. Do not move in with somebody to save money in a romantic situation, okay? It's only going to end in disaster. But here's the other thing. Here's the thing I want you to consider. I want you to consider whether or not you actually believe that it's wrong for people to live together. Because it sounds like you don't actually believe it as much as you say you do. Because you're willing to compromise it for inflation. If inflation is the only thing to get you to throw your belief away, then it's a piss poor belief and you don't believe in it as much as you say you do. The real benefit of this moment that we're having, me and you right now, since you asked me this question, the real benefit that we're having is that you get to adjudicate and to really legislate your beliefs differently. Ask yourself if you really believe that. Or maybe that was just what you were taught and you've accepted what you've been taught uncritically. This is an opportunity for you to decide whether or not that's really your beliefs or the belief of the people in the community around you who fed it to you. Now, I'm not taking a stand on whether it's right or wrong. That's for you to decide. I don't get to judge your morality. Paul said we should work out our own salvation with fear and trembling. You get the phrase? Our own salvation with fear and trembling. I don't get to tell you what you're supposed to do, and you damn sure don't get to tell me what I'm supposed to do. But here's what I know for sure. I'm not moving in with nobody dealing with all their crazy habits just to save some money. Because it's going to cost you more than money. It's going to cost you your peace, your sanity, and your self-respect. And you have to ask yourself, what am I really saving? And what is it really costing me? And is this worth? Is it worth the little pennies I'm saving because of inflation? It's amazing how people are blaming inflation for everything these days. Why'd you move in together? Inflation. Why'd you quit your job? Inflation. Why'd you break up? Inflation. Oh, let's take a break. We'll be right back with more Ask Dr. Sean. I like that question. Welcome back, everybody. Let's do some more Ask Dr. Sean. You gotta say your name like Sean. That's how we say it in New York, 2-3, Sean. Anyway, got a video sent in. Let's take a look at it.
Hi, Dr. Sean. My name is Lanesia Tyson, and I am from Chicago, Illinois. I am a neo-soul, inspirational soul singer, and I have been divorced now for 8 years, and I have been enjoying living a single life. Can you provide me with tips on how to make people understand that I am single by choice?
Well, listen, thank you for that question. It's a great question. And I'm sure there are a lot of people out there who have people in their lives who are pressuring them to be in relationships because, people think if you're not in a relationship, something's wrong with you. Like you can't possibly be happy. You can't possibly be whole. But in fact, the opposite is true, that there are a lot of people who are single because that's what they want to be. They choose to be single. A lot of people are single because they're just tired of all the rigmarole, the back and forth, the lying, people just being misrepresenting themselves, all the shady, petty people. You know what I'm saying? And when you've been through a lot and you've had to deal with a lot, overcome a lot, you got a lot of scars, you had the marks on your back to prove it. Sometimes you just need a season where you're like, look, I'm good. I'm good. I don't need, look, I'm good. You know what I'm saying? And There is nothing, I keep telling people all the time that being single is not a curse. It's not a curse, it's not a sin, it's none of that. Can I prove it to you? All right, Jesus wasn't married, was he? No. The Apostle Paul wasn't married, was he? No. Prophet Jeremiah wasn't married. No. I can go down the list. Plenty of great people were not ultimate. If the founder of the faith wasn't married, then how y'all running around telling everybody that you ought to be married? If you're not, you in sin or something. Stop being crazy, people. Let people live their lives. And I think the way you tell people that you're okay being single is you just be okay being single. See, what you need to do is free yourself of the need to explain it to anybody. I don't need to explain to you my choices or what I choose to do in my private and personal life. And if your friends have a problem with it, then tell your friends to kiss your behind. And if they're your friends, they will understand that you've created a boundary and that they need to respect that boundary. That's not to say you're not willing to talk about it, if asked politely, but what you're unwilling to do is to justify it, to explain it to anybody. You follow what I'm saying? And sometimes you got to just rise up, rear up one good time, and let people know, I'm not having this conversation again. Okay? This is the last time we're going to talk about this. And people will learn and they will adjust and they will get the message. I think anybody who thinks that they need to explain themselves or explain their lives to people or justify themselves, you are headed in a direction that's going to cost you sanity, that's going to cost you peace, and it's going to cost you your self-respect. The thing you need to do, and the thing every single person in the world needs to do, is make sure that you are okay being single. Because if you really are okay being single, then you won't feel that pressure the way people try to apply it to you. You follow me? And people are always going to try to apply their pressure to you. Make you feel what they feel about what you're doing with your life. You get to the place where you finally decide, I don't feel the pressure because I'm fine with it. You follow it? You get what I'm saying? Make sure you're okay with your journey. When you're okay with your journey, anybody else having a question about it becomes extra, it becomes secondary, it becomes adiaphor. Yeah, draw that boundary. Let your friends know and know in certain terms, we're not talking about this every week. We ain't talking about this every month. And if y'all feel the need to make my personal life the point of conversation between you, you can have this conversation and this meal without me. And then you get up and you go home. And your friends, if they really are good human beings and good people, they will understand that they've crossed the line. And they will reassert the boundary, the respectful, loving boundary that all friendships, all relationships must have. But if you don't draw it, they ain't going to draw it for you. All right, let's do this last one. Here's a question someone emailed me. My son's mother claims that she's moving overseas in the fall. I am active in my son's life and I don't want them to go. I'm assuming he means his sons. How do I tell her that I don't want her to move to another country with our son? Well, first let me say this, and I'm running out of time, but let me say this. Sir, make sure that you have paternity established and make sure that you have some sort of legal custody agreement established. If you don't have that, run to the court right now. Run to a judge, run to a lawyer, and get whatever kind of injunction they can put on this immediately, okay? Because in a situation like this, you need to have a legal right to have access and say so over where your child can live and what can happen with your son. And I hate that this has to happen between couples, but sometimes we live in the real world and it has to happen, okay? So if you don't have legal paternity established and some sort of custody agreement arrangement established by law, or if you're not at least in the process, you need to do that right away. I mean right away. As soon as the show's over, you call you a lawyer. But here's the other thing, because you asked me about having a conversation with your baby mother, your son's mother, about, the not moving and all of that. Here's what I would say to you. What I would say to you is this. Don't try to have this conversation with her with just the two of you. This is not the kind of conversation that can be had with just the two of you. I can sense from the question there's a whole lot going on between you. Get a third person involved in this, a minister, a counselor, a therapist, a psychologist, someone else, a life coach who can help the two of you hear what both of you are trying to say. And it's not going to be an easy conversation. And that's why I'm recommending that you have this conversation in the presence of a professional and a third party. Now, when I say third party, I don't mean her mama or your auntie or somebody's brother or your best friend. Somebody who is good at helping people facilitate and have difficult conversations. That's the person who needs to be in this room. Because I'm telling you to your face, this is not a conversation that the two of you can have with just the two of you. Because I'm putting myself in your shoes, man. I got 2 sons, and if my son's mom was trying to take my boy out the country, I would be in jail. So I'm saying, you don't want to end up in jail. So make sure you do this the right way. And I think it can work out, all right? Enter into this conversation with the best expectations, and I'll be praying for you. All of us will be praying for you that you can keep yourself in your boy's life, because that's important. That's very important. I know what it meant for my boys, and I'm sure it'll mean the same thing for you.